This is an easy melt in the pan number, beginning with 200 grams of butter, followed by 250 mils of hot water. Then I add 50 grams of cocoa, 125 grams of caster sugar, and 100 grams of soft dark brown sugar. I gently whisk everything together over very low heat until smooth. Into this melted mixture, I stir in a couple of teaspoons of vanilla before taking the pan off the heat. In a small bowl, I mix together 225 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon of bicarb, and a teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, nearly there. I beat together 2 large eggs, then mix them into the slightly cooled pan. Then gradually whisk in the dry ingredients until absorbed, and I have a gorgeous glossy batter. I pour this into 4 shallow tier cake tins and bake for 7 minutes in a 180 centigrade oven or 160 fan. Though you could simply divide the mixture between 2 sandwich tins and bake for 15 to 20 minutes. Well, the cakes are made and the icing is underway. I've got 300 grams of unsalted butter and 400 grams of peanut butter whirring away in here. And now half a teaspoon of fine sea salt. I think it's quite important there is a pronounced saltiness to this icing. It's what stops it becoming cloying. And now 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm ready to whisk in the icing sugar now. There's 600 grams of icing sugar there, which I have sieved through gritted teeth. It's the only job I hate in the kitchen. There's a lot of sugar, a lot of butter, a lot of peanut butter, but then I am creating a beautiful monster. It looks quite thick and condensed now, but everything is going to change. And what changes it is whipping in double cream. 8 tablespoons, that's about 120 mils, one at a time. And what really makes a difference is that now that all the cream is added, I just stand back and let it carry on whisking for about 4 minutes. I love the colours of this cake. So 70s, very Bieber actually, with its golden beige and brown. Now look at this, so pale and creamy and voluminous. Time to build my tower of cakes. I do have to say something, which is when you make the 4 ultra-thin layers, you will think something's gone wrong. Look, these look thin as a burnt pancake, but that's what they're meant to be like. And when they're all layered with the icing, it will look absolutely perfect. I'm not suggesting you get a ruler out, but the idea is to dollop and then spread a layer 1 centimetre thick between all the cakes. It doesn't matter if it goes over the edges, it'll just make it easier to ice the sides later. I'm going to put this one on top. Don't be worried about running out of icing, you won't. The 3rd cake on top. Be careful because they are tender. So 1 centimetre on top, as well as in between each layer. And then the serious business of the sides. But don't be daunted. I always feel slightly overwhelmed at the beginning when I start on the sides. By the end, I almost have to have the cake prized out of my hands to make me stop. It's so moussey, it almost looks like honeycomb turned into buttercream. I am such an impatient person, but I rather love doing this. I find it calming. You just have to give yourself up to it. And remember, you're not supplying a cake shop. It doesn't have to be, so perfect and with no sign of human touch. What I like about home cooking is that you see the hand. You can see that someone's been troweling their cake for a long time. Oh. I could go on smoothing for eternity, but I must stop. As Ruskin said, a work of art is never finished, it is merely abandoned. So I will abandon it. Well, maybe not quite, because whenever I finished icing it, I want to leave it smooth because I love it. It looks so beautiful. But really, this cake is at its best with a little fine scattering of chopped, dry roasted peanuts, and a teeny bit of crunch. I make this cake for celebrations, but the act of making it and decorating it feels like a celebration to me in itself. This is where my emergency brownies come in. They don't take very long and you don't need very many ingredients, but what you end up with are 2 large fudgy squares to be snaffled still warm and squidgy, straight from the tin if need be. So when your knead is great, put 50 grams of soft unsalted butter into a pan, then sprinkle over 50 grams of soft light brown sugar. Add a tablespoonful of amber maple syrup, though you could always use golden syrup. Put it on a gentle heat and give it a stir every now and then. When it's all melted, take the pan off the heat, add 3 tablespoons of cocoa to 3 tablespoons of plain flour already in a bowl, along with 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt flakes. Mix together, then stir them into the waiting saucepan. Crack an egg into a bowl, add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, then lightly whisk together. Then add this to the saucepan and stir again until everything is smoothly and glossily combined. Tip in 50 grams of chocolate chips and the same weight of walnut pieces and give everything a final stir. I always bake my emergency brownies in one of those little foil tins that looks like you've got takeaway food. Scrape every last bit of the nubbly fudgy batter into the tin and bake in an oven at 170 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, by which time the top will be just set and the edges coming away from the tin. If at all possible, and I know it's a big ask, let the brownies stand out of the oven for 20 or 30 minutes before diving in. For the base, I like to use chocolate sandwich biscuits, which I break up roughly before dropping them into a food processor. Next, I add some good dark chocolate. I give this a blitz until I have beautiful earthy rubble. On top of this, I add some soft unsalted butter and smoked sea salt flakes, though you can of course use regular sea salt flakes. This gets another blitz until the butter is incorporated. I tip this mixture into a loose-bottomed flan tin, then press it down and around the edges with my hands before smoothing it with the back of a spoon. I leave the lime case in the fridge to set overnight so that all I need to do the next day is melt a few luscious ingredients together for the filling. I begin by finely chopping a slab of chocolate. Again, it must be good and dark. So I have already laid the foundations for my salted chocolate tart, in other words, made the base. And now for the filling. I'm going to start off by using a word that I love, which is I'm going to slake some corn flour in milk. This gives a satiny lusciousness to the chocolate filling. Right, that's done. Feeling very efficient in a warm kind of a way. And now, you need some cream, a lake of cream. I've used very good dark chocolate, so I need a bit of sugar. And then the cosy sweetness of vanilla. You can use extract, but I love this goo. So that's the light side. Now come with me, if you will, to the dark side, and I mean dark. Some instant espresso. I use this a lot with chocolate because it provides a really deep, dark hinterland. In life, I have no truck with bitterness. In the kitchen, I'm drawn to it. So I want some cocoa. And although sieving is my least favourite job in the kitchen, I am prepared to do this now because it's worth it. I promised a salted chocolate tart, but I'm going one better, smoked salt. I am a person of passions and I love this stuff. It brings a slight note of the bonfire. Now the chocolate goes into the pan here. And then finally, an ooze of extra virgin olive oil. It would be more usual to use butter here, but the thing is, to me, butter just merges in with the cream. It doesn't add anything. And this brings a sort of slightly grassy, peppery savouriness, as well as gleam. And on we go. At this stage, I just want the chocolate to start melting. Then I can add my slaked corn flour. Right, so the chocolate's melted now. In this goes. The corn flour helps this mixture to thicken, and without eggs, which makes life very simple. I mean, you saw how easy the tart base was to make. This is even easier. I mean, it's embarrassingly easy. Now, it's quite easy to tell when it's ready. I mean, you can see how thick it is, but this is scientific method. Lift up the spoon, draw your finger across the back, and you can see that it's not trickling. That line is staying there. That means turn off the heat and pour into a jug to cool. Now, it's got to be cool enough so that it doesn't melt the biscuit base, but I still want it to have a bit of flow to it, so when I pour it into the base, it will just ripple in. To prevent its getting a skin, I'm going to scrunch up some dampened parchment, which I have about my person, as one does. Just put it on the top. My mother taught me this. So once this has cooled down a bit, I can build on my foundations. And that's perfect. To wave its way into the tin. Just a little shimmy to make it flat and even. And now it needs to go in the fridge to set for later. A deep, deep joy awaits. Betty, I've made your favourite.
Oh my gosh.
That looks beautiful. Look at your slice.
No, you can't get it.
There we go.
That looks so good.
That's so delicious.
My children like a chocolate chip cookie so gooey on the inside that it's hard to make the outside set enough for the cookies to keep integrity of form. So this is my solution. A chocolate chip cookie dough you bake in a little dish and eat warm with a spoon, the chocolate chips still molten. These are incredibly easy to make. You need soft unsalted butter to start off with, which you beat together with soft light brown sugar. This brings a bit of goo to the texture, along with caramelly sweetness. I'm using a mixer, but a bowl and a wooden spoon would be just fine. Once the mixture is soft and combined, add vanilla paste or extract, and then beat in an egg. I've got some plain flour ready in a bowl, and before I go any further with this, I need to add a little salt and bicarb. Then beat this into the butter and sugar mixture just gently until it coheres. When my children were small, they'd have eaten most of this batter by now. Finally, fold in some chocolate chips. I like very dark, teeny chocolate chips for this. And the pots I cook these in are small too. I hate the word ramekin, but it's ramekins I need for these, so there it is. I'm making 6 even though I'm feeding 4. As I've said before, I am never knowingly undercatered. One final touch, I smooth the tops with a crank spatula. They'll need around 15 minutes in the oven. However much everyone's eaten, there's somehow always room for my cookie dough pots, which I like with a sour tang of creme fraiche. Okay, so I dig in like this. And then...
And then I fill the middle. But do you want to try that to use on the side?
I start by making the icing. I pour 60 ml of cold water into a heavy base saucepan. Then I add 75 grams of coconut butter, which is different from coconut oil, though you could use marge. 50 grams of soft brown sugar gives a subtle suggestion of caramel that I adore. To get the slightly bitter edge I want, I add 1.5 tablespoons of cocoa, plus 1.5 teaspoons of instant espresso powder. I bring all the ingredients to the boil and then turn off the heat before quickly adding some finely chopped chocolate. It must be good and dark. Nothing less than 70% cocoa solids will do. I give the pan a swirl to help the chocolate melt gently into the hot liquid. And then I whisk it all together until it's thick and smooth. Then leave it to cool while I get on with the gorgeous cake. That's 225 grams of plain flour, 1.5 teaspoons of bicarb, half a teaspoon of free-flowing salt, and just as in the icing, 1.5 teaspoons of instant espresso powder. And a lot of cocoa, 75 grams. This is a very chocolatey chocolate cake. It's a two-stage affair, and the first stage is done. For the second stage, a lot of water, 375 mils. Now, this is a liquid batter, and that's what makes the texture so fabulous. I've got 75 grams of coconut oil. It would be 90 mils if it were liquid. And the thing about coconut oil is it's solid until the temperature is 24 centigrade, and then it liquefies. Just give this a little coax to help it melt. You can use any vegetable oil, but I find coconut oil really gives a wonderful crumb. And just as there was dark sugar in the icing, there is soft dark sugar here. 300 grams of it. I want 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar. The vinegar acts with the bicarb to make the cake rise and have a lightness, and this is very important since, of course, there are no eggs. And now it's just a matter of pouring a one into t'other. Quite apart from being seduced by the splendid squidginess of this cake, it's so easy. You can see why I wheel it out for every family birthday now. This cake needs about 35 minutes in a 180-degree oven, and then you just let it cool in its tin. Once it's cold, the icing will be at perfect consistency. I pour that on and then celebrate the cake's sumptuousness by sprinkling it with rose petals and pistachios. And now, a casual stroll to the oven. To finish finish the cake, I gently ease the icing to the edges. If you want to adorn it, now is the time. Strew joyously with chopped pistachios and dried rose petals, or whatever your heart desires. It needs to be left for 30 minutes to set, but that's a big ask.